Alright guys, what's going on and welcome back to the channel. So over the past year or so, you guys have asked me some pretty direct questions of, hey, I just bought a new WRX, I just bought a new STI. I don't really know where to start with modifying the engine, but I want to make more power reliably. So I'm going to give you guys a detailed breakdown of what parts to order, in order, when to install them, and what tunes to use with those ones. We're going to cover both the EJ series and the FA series. So if you are an FA owner, you might want to skip ahead up to the FA segment of this. If you're an EJ owner, we're going to talk about you guys first. Or, I mean, if you guys just want to kick it and hang out and watch the entire video, your boy's not going to complain about that either. So we're going to kick this off with the EJ series first. Now, for all you EJ owners out there, I'm assuming that you bought the car, there's absolutely nothing done to the engine, and you want to make some power, and you don't know quite what to buy first. Well, the first thing you're going to want to buy is an access port. Getting that access port is going to be your gateway tool to modifying that car in general. Same thing is going to apply to you FA owners out there as well. Now, what the access port does is I've made oodles of videos on access ports. If you guys want a lot more information on those ones, I'll link them down below in the description. But what the access port is going to allow you to do is open up that tuning platform, so when you're buying parts, you can at least put an off-the-shelf map on there. If you don't know what an off-the-shelf map is, I've made videos on that as well. But this is where we're going to break these down into the Cobb stages first. I know it's not the best way and the most accurate way that we like to refer to parts on a car, but for the sake of this video, we are going to be using OTS quite often. Now, for this first segment, you are going to want that access port. Like I said, it's going to open up the gateway. After you get that access port, it's going to let you put an intake on the car. Now, putting that intake on the car is going to give it just a small, not a lot of power, but a small horsepower bump. I'm not even going to try to quote you guys on wheel horsepower figures on this because it's going to vary so much from car to car, engine to engine, and overall engine health. Now, once you have that intake on the car, you can go ahead, you can do a couple other things before you need to bump that tune up. So you're going to be on a stage 1 OTS plus tune. That's going to allow you to do an intake and a catback. You don't need a tune for a catback, but the stage 1 plus is going to be for that intake and catback. While you're still in that stage 1 plus area, I would suggest doing it in this order: is intake, catback, air oil separator, and then a cylinder for cooling mod. That's going to give you the best reliability that you can get on the car while you're in this segment of platform. After you've gotten those kind of knocked off and you want some more power out of the car, it's time to bump it up to stage 2. Now, for stage 2 plus, this is going to be an intake and a downpipe, or an intake and a turbo back. Except for you 2015 plus STI owners out there, you cannot do this because the fueling from the factory does not support this. But if you are pre-2015 STI or WRX, this is the segment that I proceed that you do. Is you go ahead, you get that downpipe, you can go ahead and throw a turbo inlet on the car also. Just because you don't need to do a lot of tuning for a turbo inlet, the car is going to be able to mitigate that just fine. And then while you're in this kind of platformish area, if you want, you can really go ahead and throw on a bypass valve. I do not suggest doing a blow-off valve. You can do a bypass valve, and then while you're in there, do a radiator. This is going to be kind of the extent of what you can do on an OTS tune. Once you want to venture outside of that, that's when you're going to have to start going in there. You're going to have to either get an E-tune, you're going to have to get a dyno tune, a street tune, whatever you have access to. But for you EJ owners, that's kind of the limiting factor on what you can do on an OTS tune. Now, if you want to venture past that and you want more power out of it, then you can start doing a lot more fun things. If you wanted to, this is where I suggest you buy a bundle or a heap of parts, and then you go get a tune all at once. So some of those parts, for example, are going to be injectors. I do suggest getting ID 1050s if you're just looking for a bare kind of basic cookie cutter-esque build. The 1050s are going to get you up to around 400 wheel horsepower. I maxed mine out at about 80% duty cycle at about 401 wheel horsepower on 85, so those 1050s are fairly capable injectors. But if you're doing injectors, you're going to have to do a fuel pump also. The DW300C or the AEM 300 liter per hour are both really good fuel pumps that you guys should or could be using out there. They're both drop-in, no tune required for those fuel pumps either, and they're relatively easy to install. Now, for most owners out there of the EJ series, I do suggest you pick up Cobb's fuel stumble kit if you're just looking to run some basic fuel lines in the car. If you're not looking to do a fuel pressure regulator, fuel lines, or anything like that, the fuel stumble fix kit is going to help fix that fuel stumble around 3,800 RPM. Your tuner is going to appreciate you for it because it is going to make tuning the car a lot easier, and it is going to help smooth things out a lot better when you're getting on the car, and that power band will just reflect that in the actual tune. But if you're wanting to go a step further and you don't necessarily want to do a fuel stumble fix kit, you can definitely do fuel rails, fuel lines, and a fuel pressure regulator. On my old EJ build that we had in the car, we did an Aeromotive A1000, IAG fuel lines, and IAG fuel rails. The car loved them. That's when we were running E85 as well, which leads us into the next point is if you have access to ethanol, E85 is a very good option to be able to run also. So here kind of in this gray area of tuning, if you really do want to be on flex fuel, you're going to want to grab a Cobb ethanol sensor or something similar. Now you can definitely make your own ethanol sensor if you wanted to, but it's going to cost you a lot more, and it kind of goes outside the bounds of easy plug and play parts. I bet that Cobb one is pretty simple to use. And then if you're really looking to go and like continuing to push the bounds, an external wastegate and an up pipe are very good parts to add on that list as well. A Grimspeed up pipe with a tile 38mm external wastegate is going to be able to get you by for most of the time. Typically you want a smaller 38mm external wastegate when you're running higher boost intervals, and you want a larger external wastegate around like 44mm or that 45mm point when you're running a little bit lower boost. But that's really going to depend on the turbo application that you're running and how much power you're making, which goes into the turbos. So this is kind of the area where if you're going to start doing turbo swaps, this is going to be when you do them. That's why I'm saying if you're going to do all this, buy all of these parts, save up for a while, install them all at once, get a base tune on the car, and then go drive to the tuner to get pro tuned. But if you are looking to do a turbo, if you're looking for a really good turbo for a stock block, the Cobb 20G or an FP Blue are very good turbos. If you have the 2019 and plus STI Type RA short block, you can do an FP Green, and that will also make a lot more power. People have been pushing those blocks pretty high in the power bands, so if you wanted to put a slightly larger turbo on that one, that's when you would want to do that. And then with the additional exhaust, since you're doing that up pipe external wastegate turbo, you're going to want to be doing headers also. Now a lot of you guys ask me unequal length or equal length headers. It's all going to boil down to what you want. The unequal length is going to keep that Subaru rumble that all of you know and love so much. However, the equal length headers are going to give you a little bit better top end power. They're also going to help reduce EGTs in cylinders 2 and 4, which can also help reduce the amount of knock that your engine might be seeing. So equal length headers are always going to be my suggestions out there for you guys. I kind of skipped over this one, but I feel like it's a little bit obvious. As you're going into a Pro Tune, you're also going to want a 3-port electronic boost controller. They all pretty much do the exact same thing. Pick whatever brand you like, whatever price point you want. But the kind of the base tune of how you're going to want to sandwich all of these together is, if you are going to get a Pro Tune, is select what you want out of that last list that we kind of covered there. Pick and choose the ones you want. Talk with your pro tuner, and then he'll kind of get you set up in the right path of what parts you're going to need exactly. But those are pretty much the cookie cutter recommendations that I have for you guys, because they're proven parts. They've made power before. It's pretty much the exact same build that we had on my STI when it was running an EJ257 in it, and it's a pretty proven setup. All right, now for you FA20 owners out there, this is going to be relatively similar over to that EJ setup, but it is going to be a little bit different. Now within that stage 1 category, you're going to be able to run an intake. I do suggest an air oil separator. IAG's Street Series is always going to be my recommendation to you guys for that one. And then you're going to want a catback also. So that stage 1 tune on that access port is going to clean up a lot of the rev hang that everyone hates when it comes to that FA platform. Plus running that intake and that catback is really going to make a difference. Cleaning up that rev hang, getting a little bit more induction noises, and getting a little exhaust note out of there. It's pretty much what most people are all right with, but for those of you who want to take it to the next level, a J pipe on a stage 2 tune with a low pressure fuel pump and a charge pipe are going to be what you want. So within that bounds of that stage 2, you're pretty much all right doing those modifications there. But once you start wanting to do more, that's when you're gonna have to venture and getting into an E-tune or a Pro Tune. So with the FA20 WRX, when you start getting into that E-tune and Pro Tune category, you're gonna be looking at like an EGR and a TGV delete. Now, for those of you that don't know what those are, your TGVs are essentially going to look like this. These are my lower TGV housings off of my EG33 that we're swapping into my STI. If you were to look inside of your stock ones on your WRX, you would see butterfly valves inside of all of these ports. And what those butterfly valves do is they open and close on cold start for emission control, or they can really hinder the amount of air that's getting into the cylinder heads coming from the intake manifold, just because you have a large butterfly valve. Even though it's all the way open, it is still disrupting airflow. And then you can also be doing that EGR delete if you do live in a state or a country that has pretty lenient emissions regulations. So what it's going to do is essentially stop recirculating exhaust gases in the car and kind of block that off, so that way it really cleans up the It really cleans up the air going back into the engine, so that way you're not reusing a lot of that exhaust gas. Now, for you FA20 guys out there, a lot of you ask me, should you run unequal length headers? Should you get equal length headers? My suggestion to you guys is always going to be get the equal length headers. Yes, Tomei does make an unequal length header for the FA20, and it does make it sound a little bit like an older WRX. However, you are sacrificing a lot. You're essentially increasing EGTs because you are increasing 2 of the runners off of that header. You are decreasing your fuel mileage. You're giving up a lot of the benefits that a twin scroll turbocharger offers. So it's just, there's too many drawbacks for me to suggest the unequal length setup for you guys. But if you are looking for a solid equal length setup, 2 suggestions is going to be the Killer B external wastegate header. It comes with 2 tile 38mm external wastegates. It really does help with boost control. It also allows you to run a catless J pipe if that is something that you guys are interested in doing. Or if you do want to keep it internally gated, the Perrin header for the FA20 is also a very solid option to go with. And then when you start dipping into the ProTune category like we've been talking about, an intercooler is something that a lot of people swap over to. You guys asked me top mount versus front mount. I have an entire video dedicated to that topic. Go watch that one if you're kind of on the fence about which one you want. But an intercooler is something you're going to be wanting to do at this point to help really bring down those IATs, because nobody wants to be pushing hot air into their engine. No one wants that. And then exact same as the STI and older WRX, if you're wanting flex fuel at this point, that flex fuel sensor is something that you should be swapping into just to be able to run that flex fuel. Now, a lot of you guys ask me, what injectors do you need for your FA20? You do not need to buy injectors for your FA20 unless you're looking to make big power, and in that case, you're going to want to swap over to an intake manifold from a BRZ, which runs port injection and direct injection. But the direct injectors in the FA20 WRX are more than capable of making all the power that you need, and they are E85 friendly as well. And then that last little sprinkle on top for you FA owners out there, for anyone that does want to do this, is a turbo. Swapping out the turbo on those FA20s can get a little bit expensive since they are a twin scroll setup, but they do make really good replacement turbos out there. I know Steam Speed makes some, Forced Performance makes a lot of them too. So this is the category where if you're going all out, wanting to give it the beans, swap out that turbo. So these are kind of the bounds of what you guys are limited to doing within these like access port OTS maps, and then going into a ProTune. If you're looking to go into that ProTune category for either an EJ or an FA, that's when things kind of open up a little bit, and you guys got to do a little bit of research on your ends to say, all right, this is what I want. This fits my budget. My tuner said that these parts are the ones that I should go with. These are the ones I should stay away from, and then build your list off of that. Going outside of the bounds of that stage 1, stage 2 kind of area, where I said what parts you can or what parts you should do, are really the limits of what you should be doing on an OTS map. Keep in mind, OTS maps are general maps created for everyone to be able to use, and not for just a specific car out there. They need to be able to communicate with every ECU, every car that they are uploaded, regardless of region, engine health, engine mileage, all of these other factors that do go into a ProTune. So I do hope this video helps some of you guys out and answer those questions of, hey, I just bought this WRX or STI. I don't know what modifications to do. Hopefully this answers that for you. But that's all I got for you guys on this one. Pretty chill video today. I do have some more EG33 stuff coming up for all you guys. I actually want to show you guys something real quick. The fuel rails did come in for the EG33. I'm incredibly stoked on them. These are some big boy fuel rails. These are Dash 8 fuel rails for the new motor, which I'm super pumped about. But I got more stuff to show you in upcoming videos. So like I said, if this video helped you guys out, go ahead, hit that like button and turn it blue like the chassis on the Subaru. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit your boy up, because we always got good stuff coming up. I mean, I don't gotta explain it. Just hit that button if you want to. And if you're not already subscribed to the channel, I think I already said that. I did already said that. But with that, I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out, homies.